What happens when one of music's most legendary voices sits down for what should be a simple morning interview, only to face a barrage of disrespectful questions that cross every line imaginable? In just 33 seconds, a seasoned television host would destroy his own credibility and spark one of the most shocking walkouts in morning television history. The studio lights were bright that morning at Good Morning America. Chaka Khan, the 10-time Grammy Award-winning icon, the woman whose voice had defined generations of music, walked onto the set with grace. She wore an elegant outfit, her signature style radiating confidence. She had been in this business for over 5 decades. She had seen it all, done it all, and earned every bit of respect that came with her name. George Stephanopoulos sat across from her, his notes prepared, cameras rolling, millions of viewers tuning in for what they expected to be a celebration of a living legend. But something felt off from the very beginning. The energy in the room was tense. Chaka Khan settled into her chair, smiling politely, ready to talk about her music, her legacy, her upcoming projects. She had no idea what was about to unfold. George started the interview with what seemed like a standard opening. "Chaka Khan, welcome to Good Morning America. It is great to have you here." She smiled warmly, nodding her appreciation. "Thank you for having me. It is always wonderful to be here." But then, almost immediately, George shifted his tone. "So, let us talk about your career. You have been in the music industry for a very long time now. Some might say you are from a completely different era of music. Do you ever feel like your sound is, well, outdated? Like maybe it does not connect with younger audiences anymore?" The smile on Chaka Khan's face faltered just slightly. She took a breath, composed herself, and responded with professionalism. "I think great music is timeless. My music has connected with people across all generations. I have young fans, older fans, and everyone in between. Real artistry does not have an expiration date." George did not seem satisfied with that answer. He pressed on, his voice taking on an almost condescending edge. "But let us be honest here. When was the last time you had a hit? I mean, a real hit that people actually remember? Is it fair to say that your relevance peaked decades ago?" The question hung in the air like a slap. The crew behind the cameras shifted uncomfortably. Chaka Khan sat up a little straighter, her expression hardening. "Relevance is not measured by chart positions alone, George. It is measured by impact, by influence, by the way your work touches people's lives. I have influenced countless artists who are making hits today. My legacy speaks for itself." George leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Sure, legacy is important. But let us talk about something else. There have been stories over the years, rumors about your personal life, about struggles with substances, about difficult behavior backstage. How much of that is true? Were you really as hard to work with as people say? The disrespect was palpable now. This was not journalism. This was an ambush. Chaka Khan's eyes narrowed. "I am not here to address gossip and tabloid nonsense. I am here to talk about my music and my career. If you want to have a real conversation, I am happy to do that. But I will not sit here and be disrespected." George seemed almost amused by her pushback. "Disrespected? I'm just asking questions that people want to know the answers to. Is not that what interviews are for? Or are you saying you are above answering tough questions?" "Tough questions are fine," Chaka Khan replied, her voice steady but firm. "But there is a difference between tough questions and insulting questions designed to tear someone down. You are not interested in learning anything about me or my work. You are interested in creating drama." George shrugged, his arrogance on full display. "Well, drama is what gets people talking, is it not? And let us face it, Chaka, you could use some attention right now. When was the last time anyone under 30 even knew who you were without Googling you first?" The crew gasped. This had gone too far. Even the producers watching from the control room were frozen, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let this train wreck continue. Chaka Khan stared at George for a long moment, her jaw tight, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. "You know what?" she said slowly, her voice dangerously calm. "I have been doing interviews for over 50 years. I have sat with the best journalists in the world. I have been asked hard questions, challenging questions, questions that made me think and reflect. But never in all my years have I been spoken to with such blatant disrespect and ignorance." George tried to interject, but she held up a hand, silencing him. "I am Chaka Khan. I am a 10-time Grammy winner. I am in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I have sold millions of records. I have influenced generations of artists. And you, sitting here in your expensive suit with your smug little smile, think you can diminish that? Think you can reduce my entire legacy to whether or not some teenager knows my name without looking it up? Her voice was rising now, the passion and anger impossible to contain. I have earned my place in music history. I have worked harder than you could ever imagine. I have broken down barriers. I have paved the way for artists you probably love but do not even realize were inspired by me. And you think you can sit here and question my relevance? George finally managed to speak, his tone defensive. I am just trying to have an honest conversation here. If you cannot handle a few straightforward questions, maybe you are not cut out for this kind of interview. That was it. That was the moment. Chaka Khan stood up, abruptly, removing her microphone with swift, decisive movements. I do not need to prove anything to you or anyone else. My work speaks for itself. And I certainly do not need to sit here and be insulted by someone who clearly has no appreciation for real artistry. George tried to save face, his voice taking on a pleading quality. Wait, come on now. Do not be so sensitive. This is just how interviews work. We push a little, we challenge our guests. It is nothing personal. Chaka Khan turned to face him one last time, her eyes blazing. Nothing personal? You just spent the last several minutes trying to tear me down on national television. You questioned my relevance, my talent, my legacy. You brought up tabloid garbage and tried to make me defend myself against rumors and lies. And now you want to tell me it is nothing personal? She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. You know what the real problem is, George? You are so used to interviewing politicians and people who need something from you that you forgot how to show basic respect. You think everyone who sits in that chair is there to play your game, to feed your ego, to give you your viral moment. But I do not need this. I do not need you. I do not need this show. The studio was silent except for her voice. Every eye was on her. Every camera was capturing this moment that would be replayed and analyzed for days to come. George sat there, his face flushed, clearly not expecting this reaction. He had miscalculated badly. I have been treated with more respect by street vendors than I have been treated by you today, Chaka Khan continued. And the sad part is, you probably think you did nothing wrong. You probably think this is good television. But what you have actually done is show everyone watching exactly who you are, and it is not pretty. George tried one more time to regain control. Chaka, please sit back down. Let us start over. Clearly, there has been a misunderstanding here. There has been no misunderstanding, she shot back. You understood exactly what you were doing. You wanted to provoke me. You wanted to create controversy. Well, congratulations. You got it. But you also lost the opportunity to have a real conversation with a real artist. And that is your loss, not mine. She turned to walk off the set, her posture straight, her head held high. George called after her, his voice slightly panicked now. Wait, we still have 10 minutes left in the segment. What am I supposed to do now? Chaka Khan stopped and looked back over her shoulder. I do not know, George. Maybe you can spend those 10 minutes reflecting on why treating people with dignity and respect matters. Or you can just talk about yourself. That seems to be what you are most comfortable with anyway. And with that, she walked off the set. The cameras kept rolling, capturing George's stunned expression, the awkward silence, the crew members looking at each other with wide eyes. The host sat there alone, his notes scattered on the table in front of him, his carefully planned interview lying in ruins. One of the producers rushed onto the set, whispering urgently in George's ear. He nodded stiffly, trying to compose himself. He looked directly into the camera, his professional mask slipping back into place, though cracks were clearly visible. Well, he said, his voice strained, that was certainly unexpected. We apologize for the abrupt end to that segment. Sometimes these conversations take surprising turns. We will be right back after this commercial break. The moment the cameras cut, the facade crumbled. George pulled off his own microphone, tossing it onto the desk with frustration. Crew members gathered around, some trying to console him, others clearly upset about what had just transpired. The control room was in chaos, phones ringing off the hook as executives tried to do damage control. But Chaka Khan was already gone. She walked out of the building with her head held high, her dignity intact, her integrity unshaken. She had stood up for herself in a way that few people have the courage to do, especially on live television in front of millions of viewers. The interview that was supposed to last 15 minutes had imploded in less than 10. What was meant to be a lighthearted promotional appearance had turned into a masterclass in how not to interview a legend. George Stephanopoulos had tried to play games with the wrong person. He had underestimated the strength, the confidence, the sheer force of will that comes with being Chaka Khan. As she left the building, members of her team surrounded her, asking if she was okay, if she needed anything. She smiled at them, a genuine smile this time, and said simply, "I am fine. I am always fine. No one gets to take my power away from me. Not him, not anyone." Back in the studio, the commercial break ended and George returned to the screen, this time with a co-host by his side, someone to help him salvage what was left of the show. They moved on to other segments, other guests, other stories. But everyone knew that this moment, this confrontation, would be the only thing people remembered from that day's broadcast. The exchange had been uncomfortable to watch. It had been awkward, tense, and at times painful. But it had also been necessary. It had been a reminder that respect is not optional, that legends are called legends for a reason, and that no amount of television, fame, or media power gives someone the right to demean another human being. George had tried to use his platform to diminish someone greater than himself. He had tried to play the role of the tough interviewer, the one who asks the questions no one else will ask. But there is a difference between being tough and being cruel. There is a difference between challenging someone and attacking them. And George had crossed that line repeatedly, arrogantly, and without any apparent awareness of what he was doing. Chaka Khan had every right to walk away. She had every right to refuse to participate in her own humiliation. She had every right to stand up and say, "No, not today, not ever." And in doing so, she became more than just a musical icon. She became a symbol of self-respect, of knowing your worth, of refusing to accept less than you deserve. The questions George had asked were not designed to illuminate or educate. They were designed to provoke and diminish. When he questioned her relevance, he was not genuinely curious about how artists maintain longevity in a changing industry. He was implying that she did not matter anymore. When he brought up tabloid rumors, he was not seeking truth. He was trying to embarrass her. Every artist who has ever been in the public eye for decades has faced moments like this. Times when someone with a microphone and a camera decides that tearing down is more interesting than building up. Times when the quest for ratings or clicks or viral moments overrides basic human decency. But not every artist has the courage to say, "Enough, I will not participate in this." Chaka Khan did. And in that moment, she reminded everyone watching why she has endured for so long. Not just because of her incredible voice or her timeless music, but because of her strength of character, because she knows who she is and what she has accomplished, because she refuses to let anyone, no matter how powerful or prominent they may be, make her feel small. George Stephanopoulos learned a hard lesson that day. He learned that fame is not the same as respect. He learned that having a television show does not give you license to mistreat your guests. He learned that some people will push back, and when they do, the emperor's new clothes become visible to everyone. The incident raised important questions about how we treat our legends, our icons, the people who have given us so much through their art. Do we honor them? Do we celebrate their contributions? Or do we try to tear them down for entertainment? Do we recognize that behind every famous face is a human being with feelings, with pride, with a lifetime of experiences? Or do we see them as content, as material to be exploited? Chaka Khan's walkout was not just about one bad interview. It was about something bigger. It was about the way women are treated in the music industry and in media. It was about the way aging artists are dismissed and disrespected. It was about the way Black women, even those who have achieved the highest levels of success, are still subjected to disrespect and demeaning treatment. She could have sat there and taken it. She could have smiled and deflected and played along. Many people do. Many people feel they have to because they need the exposure, they need the publicity, they need to promote whatever project brought them there in the first case. But Chaka Khan did not need any of that more than she needed her self-respect. And that choice, that decision to walk away, was powerful. In the moments after she left, as George scrambled to fill the time, as producers panicked and executives made phone calls, one thing became crystal clear. Chaka Khan had won. Not because she created a scene or because she got attention, but because she maintained her dignity. She set a boundary and she enforced it. She showed millions of people watching that you do not have to accept disrespect, even from someone in a position of power. The interview was supposed to be about her music, her legacy, her ongoing contributions to the art form she loves. Instead, it became about George's arrogance, his lack of preparation, his fundamental misunderstanding of who he was talking to. He thought he was interviewing just another celebrity looking for publicity. He did not realize he was sitting across from royalty. Chaka Khan has been called the Queen of Funk. She has been celebrated by her peers, honored by institutions, recognized by fans around the world. Her influence on music is immeasurable. Artists across genres, from R&B to hip-hop to pop to rock, have cited her as an inspiration. Her vocal style has been studied and imitated but never duplicated. She is singular. She is irreplaceable. She is a treasure. And George Stephanopoulos, in his expensive suit behind his expensive desk on his expensive television show, tried to make her justify her existence, tried to make her prove her worth, tried to make her defend herself against the ultimate insult, irrelevance. But you cannot make a queen prove she is a queen. Her crown is already on her head. Her throne is already established. She does not need your validation. The walkout happened quickly, but its impact was lasting. Every word exchanged, every question asked, every response given led to that inevitable moment when enough became too much, when patience ran out, when dignity demanded action. Chaka Khan did not storm off in a fit of rage or throw a tantrum. She stood up with grace, stated her position clearly, and removed herself from a toxic situation. That is strength. That is power. George tried to frame it as her being too sensitive, unable to handle tough questions, but anyone watching could see the truth. The questions were not tough. They were disrespectful. The interview was not challenging. It was demeaning, and her response was not oversensitivity. It was appropriate and necessary. In walking away, Chaka Khan taught a lesson that extended far beyond that studio, far beyond that one morning, far beyond that one interview. She taught that respect is non-negotiable. She taught that legends do not beg for recognition from those who should be grateful to be in their presence. She taught that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to participate in your own diminishment. George sat there after she left, trying to regain his composure, trying to pretend that everything was fine, that this was all part of the show. But it was not fine. He had failed spectacularly. He had been given the opportunity to sit with one of music's greatest voices, and instead of honoring that opportunity, he had squandered it. He had prioritized provocation over conversation, controversy over connection, ratings over respect. The incident became a defining moment for both of them, though in very different ways. For Chaka Khan, it reinforced what everyone already knew. She is unshakable, unbowed, unbreakable. For George, it revealed something he probably wished had stayed hidden, that beneath the polished exterior, beneath the professional veneer, there was a troubling willingness to trade dignity for drama. What happens when a legend refuses to be disrespected? When an icon stands up and walks away rather than accept unacceptable treatment? When someone with nothing to prove decides they will not participate in a game designed to diminish them? This is what happens. A moment of television history that reminds us all that some people, some achievements, some legacies are simply beyond the reach of those who try to tear them down. Chaka Khan walked into that studio as a queen. And she walked out as a queen. Nothing George Stephanopoulos said or did could change that. And that, ultimately, is what made his failure so complete and her victory so absolute.